Corey Goldstein has found success many sellers can only dream about. He's closed multiple seven-figure deals with strategic accounts just in the last year. So, what's his secret? In this three-part series, we'll take you through how Corey landed those mega deals, from prospecting to selling to power to delighting them as customers, so you can replicate his success. So let's start with a warm-up question.
Okay.
What actually got you first interested in the profession of sales?
The easy answer is money, but I would also say that coming out of college, I was not the best student, and the easiest job I can get out of college was the sales jobs. And I was pretty good at it, and I'm still stuck here about 10 years later.
All right, so let's talk about the topic at hand. We were talking about seven-figure deals here.
Yep.
And specifically in this episode, we're talking about prospecting. So just to start off, what's your entry point when you're just getting started with one of these enterprise accounts? What's your initial plan of attack?
For me, the most valuable information is always going to be the people inside the organization. So what I try to do, I call it bottoms-up prospecting, is luckily I'm in sales and sellers have empathy for other sellers. So I try to actually find old Salesloft users or people that I feel like have similar connections to me. So just going to someone internally that knows the ins and outs, that's been there a couple of years, has sort of been my approach. And then I take whatever messaging that is that the people that, again, bottoms up, that are more day-to-day sellers or sales managers, using that message that they validated and bring it up to the executive level is typically where I start.
I love that. So in the last 12 months, you've closed seven-figure deals on both new business deals as well as expansions. Now, can you walk us through some of the similarities and differences in your approach to both of these accounts?
Massively different, especially in a space like ours. So from the net new business perspective, that was really about credentialing myself, but also showing examples of other companies that were similar to them, or maybe some of their competitors that have used us and how they're outpacing them, to really build that urgency and say, what you shouldn't do is test it out with a small group here or there. You should go big from the beginning. Versus the existing customer, it's easier, I think, to point to one of their business units or one of their regions that have used us and say, look at the success. We already have an existing agreement in place. Why don't you scale it out and grow it a little bit more? And if you have any questions, ask the person that already works for you.
Okay, so you're working these accounts and you got their attention, right? So how do you go about using that attention now to identify the pain that they're feeling in their organization?
So that bottoms up stuff I will always use throughout the entire cycle. But also that initial prospecting I did to understand, here are the strategic initiatives of the company, here's where the potential pitfalls are or the challenges that they're having, and tying back to that throughout my messaging. So an example is understanding that someone's coming out with a new product or trying to grow revenue in a certain business unit. So every level, especially the senior levels, are saying, okay, this is actually going to help me solve a big goal, not just make my people more productive, more efficient, somewhat better on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. So can you talk a little bit about the sales and marketing alignment you had to create when you're just getting started prospecting one of these accounts?
Yeah, so that's where I would say a lot of the difference is from the new company versus selling an existing customer. The existing customer knows us, and what I tried to do there was get their internal people to sort of echo the message of who is Salesloft. We do a lot of RBEs, like relationship building extras, which is sending them swag, or perfect example is around this time last year, one of my deals, I knew that the key decision maker had two small kids. I sent them gingerbread making houses, right? And no ask, just here's something, and Salesloft positive and their brand is tying together. And then at Salesloft, luckily we have a great marketing team that puts together great events, and being able to find out through LinkedIn who was close, who might be able to make it, and then find the right people to say, here's why you should come to this event. Here's the value for you. Maybe we can get you a speaking part on stage to give them a little bit more visibility externally to build their brand. And then what you see here, Salesloft does a great job of branding. Every time I showed up on site to do a training with the existing customer or meet with the executives, leave behind a pen, leave behind a mug, leave behind a notebook, which, funny enough, the next time you showed up, that's what they were drinking their coffee out of, or that's what they were taking their notes out of. And so just constant reminders of Salesloft throughout their day that were just maybe a leave behind, or that some sellers might not think about to do, just take that little extra step.
Well, Corey, thank you so much for joining us on this first episode. I'm looking forward to catching up in the next one.
Thanks, Albert. Appreciate it.
Now, in the next episode of How to Land a Seven-Figure Deal, we'll be talking about how Corey wins over the stakeholders and sells to power.